All right. Hello there. My name is Kim Ramadan, and I am your host here for the Coach Replay Show. I have a very good Twitter friend with me here today, Lindsay Deacon. So Lindsay and I met on Twitter. We did a show last year. You can check out if you want to for season 3. And we are here today again to talk about communicating coaching to others and how to do that. So welcome, Lindsay.
Hey, thanks for having me. I am making so many coaching Twitter friends.
I know. I wasn't necessarily like on Twitter a lot until maybe the past year and a half.
Yeah.
And I feel like there are so many people that I'm like, I want to see you. I want to see you. Let's meet in person because we're all vaccinated. Let's just make it happen. So yeah, we'll have to figure out a good conference to meet. And we'll invite our viewers. So I'm excited to talk about this though, because one of the things that I think I've mentioned this on another show too, my uncle, who is a business lawyer, was like, so like, what do you do? Like, what's a coach? Like, what does an instructional coach mean? And I was like, I don't know. How do I do, like, where do I start? How do I explain this? Like, what is a coach? So I think it's important for there to be clarity around what coaching is for teachers, for all stakeholders, staff, students, everyone. So what, when beginning of the year, we're getting ready to meet with teachers, whether you're a new coach, a seasoned coach, what are some things that you want people to think about before just like starting coaching cycles? What should we do first?
I think like first thing is, are you new to this building? Have you coached before? Even if you've coached before, and you're new to the school or new to where, your new coaching role, I think those are all really important questions. And then I think one of the rookie moves I made when I was a newer coach was just feeling like I had to leap into everything. And instead, now in hindsight, my wisdom, I like to think more think like a scientist, just go in, observe. Like how, because especially even if you've been at that school for 25 years and now you're the coach, being outside in this new role, you'll really see how the flow of the school works and how do people interact with each other. And, it's just sort of like taking notes, making observations, and sort of seeing where you might fit in. I think that's like a really good first step. And just listening to people,
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I think so. I started coaching in the building where I was a beginning teacher, and I was like year 4, I think. And they were like, hey, we have this reading coach, lead teacher, specialist position. And it wasn't even like a coach position. It was like something else. It was all those names. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll do that. But then I was coaching people that had seen me as a first year teacher and maybe mentored me as a first year teacher. So it was a very interesting transition that I think a little bit of clarity, a little bit of stepping back and observing might have been really good for me. And then
did you have assumptions that that kind of got changed, did you go into the role assuming one thing and then changed your mind later?
Oh, 100%. And I did so many things terribly. I didn't know what coaching was. So I started making copies for people and I was like, this is sweet. I'm fine standing here at the copier and they're happy because they have their copies, but this is actually not what coaching is. So I think if I were to step back in the mindset that I have now, the other thing too is as a teacher, you see those 4 walls. You don't always see outside of those 4 walls, and video helps us do that. But you're usually just in those 4 walls. So you don't see the scope of the building, the different grade level dynamics, the different school dynamics, administration dynamics. There are a lot of things at play. So that's a really great point. But I think if I were to do things differently, I would have stepped back, observed, like you said, and then created a roles and responsibility for myself, and the other people in the building, because that just didn't exist because we didn't know any better. Very unaware.
And something that I help coaches with now is making a coaching inventory, which is essentially just sitting down with the roster of all of the teachers in the building and just first on your own going, well, who's a brand new teacher or who would be brand new to coaching, never had coaching. Maybe who's had coaching before, maybe they had a mentor teacher, or maybe there was a coach in the building or they had a coach somewhere else. And then maybe who might just need a refresher, like maybe there was a coach before and the role has been rebranded. And if you're not able to identify like where somebody falls within those areas or those categories, then just going out and like being a fact finder, like, hey, have you ever had a coach before? Or did you ever have a mentor? Like, what worked for you? What didn't work for you? And I think also adding the principal to that list, or any administrators, what is their experience with coaching? Because there's a lot of beliefs behind coaching that we need to uncover before we go in and start working with people.
Absolutely. Yep. And I think that asking those questions makes people also understand that this is a partnership. Like I think sometimes there's fear or just an unawareness around what a coach's role is. I've gone into buildings where they didn't know who I was. And so they're like, who is this? Like they're trying to figure it. And I'm always like, listen, you're going to like me. It's going to be fine. But I understand that you need a minute to like figure that out. And I think that asking questions of people, what their comfortability is, what they feel like works for them, what hasn't worked for them, makes them a partner in this process of like you trying to figure out what your role is and all of that. And they then immediately feel more comfortable and feel like their voice is important. And then maybe they have choice from there. And then those are really great keys to building relationships with people.
Yeah. And when you talked about, clarifying like the roles and responsibilities, I think like that's super important, because if you're not clear on what you're doing, then how are you going to do it well? But also making agreements with principal on what that'll look like. And then how is that going to be messaged to the staff? How do they know? And I've seen a lot of coaches give some really great, like quick presentations at like an early staff meeting, or putting menus in folks' boxes, or doing like one-on-ones, whatever it is. I say, choose many methods. Because just giving a presentation at the staff meeting does not mean people understand it, right? Or just putting a menu in people's boxes does not mean folks are going to understand it. You have to really do a lot of different methods in order to like communicate what coaching is and what are the goals.
And I think people are very busy, and so putting a menu in their mailbox is great, and it gives them an opportunity to make a choice to like have you in there and doing different things. But most people are not going to opt in to like another thing to do necessarily, even though that's not what coaching is at all. So I think just being like super present and willing to say, to walking into a room that you've never been in is kind of uncomfortable as a coach. And it certainly isn't very comfortable as a teacher, but, asking permission to come in and say, hey, can I just check this out? I just want to see what's going on. And like, I don't even need to give you any feedback, but I'm just going to tell you all the amazing things that you're doing. And then, that's also, sometimes we just need to like go in and like see what's happening. And so how do you suggest that let's say that a coach like does all that has the presentation and it's really nicely done. Everyone's like, that was great. And then they put the menu in the mailbox and or email it or whatever. And then no one comes. Like,
then what? And
right? Then what do you do? Like, what do you do?
I mean, for me personally, what I think is really valuable for all parties involved is just to try to set a 10 to 15 minute meeting with every teacher. And I don't mean all in the first week of school, but within the first few weeks of school. And, there's a lot of great questions out there from like Elena Aguilar or Jim Knight or Diane Sweeney, just like questions for your first meeting. And it's kind of more just like getting to know you, even if you know the person really well. It's, their questions are centered around like a teacher's beliefs on learning or their students or their hopes and aspirations for the year, those kinds of questions, and really holding to that time. It's only going to be 10 or 15 minutes, and setting a timer and being like, okay, I got to go. Cause like you said, people are really busy. But I think within those conversations, what gets uncovered is what people want to work on and what their goals are for the year or for their students. And even in that moment, you don't have to be like, okay, so now I'm going to set another meeting for a goal, right? But you kind of make a note, and then you check in soon after, hey, do you want to talk about that? Or, maybe you even know about a resource that they were wondering about. But I think that just opens the door. You also don't have to work with everybody right away, right? Like, I think you choose the folks who seem the most receptive in the beginning. And I kind of feel like word of mouth travels. But I think also coaches sometimes feel this like need to do everything in the beginning, and you don't have to. You want to go deep with a few people as opposed to just surface with a lot.
Yeah, I think a lot of really great things there. Those small 10-minute meetings can really make the difference in terms of building relationships. I've made the mistake of being like, okay, so our smart girl is da, 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 da. And just like going too hard, too fast, because that's just kind of how I am. Like I want to get the task done, and but that's not how a lot of people are. And so I think it's great to pause, observe, build relationships, move in to, kind of like move into the places where people are welcoming to you first. And build some strong relationships there. And then I do believe that word of mouth does travel. And so, and it can be in a good way or a bad way. So it's very important to start off strong, because, that is true. And people will, oh, I noticed that, Kim left your room. Like, is everything okay? And that teacher sometimes is like, well, yeah, she was coaching me. It was great. Oh, really? And like those, like just kind of that like you're part of, you want them to be part of this like club that really is fun. I think it's fun.
And I like throughout my career, I've been a coach and back to the teacher, and been a coach and back to the teacher. Like I have cycled several times through that process. So every time that I've gone back to the classroom, I know exactly what I want, like I am like, who's my coach? I have a laundry list of things that I want to partner with or think through. And a few years back, I had gone back to the classroom and was super excited that there was like a coach, that I was allowed to work with. But I'll just be honest that she came with her own agenda in a time, like at the beginning of the year, my brain is like, oh, there's so many things to do. And she fully had her own agenda. And I don't feel like she really heard what I needed in the moment. And it just didn't work for me. So I went with another coach. You know what I mean?
You're like, I found a different friend.
Yeah, a little. I mean, what I really needed in that moment was for somebody to just listen and really think about like where they would fit in to support my goals and not come in with their own agenda. And I think that is a big issue for teachers, is you're constantly protecting like your time, your energy. And when somebody else comes in with their own ideas, it's just too much to process. So it's kind of like what you're saying, like coaching is really an invisible skill in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
like
but it
feel relief when the coach walks in the door.
Yes. And I think, but listening is an incredible skill that is learned by coaches, and something that has been studied a lot, because often we don't listen to listen. We listen to like respond to what the other person is saying. And so I think that the things that you're talking about early on, talking about stop and observe, now like sit down and listen and don't talk and just listen and maybe ask some questions, but that's it, like you just are there to listen. And then maybe say, here's something that is going to support what you told me you really need. Oftentimes people are harder on themselves and can name their own action step. And I don't care how many years you've been a teacher, that I think that's true. I think our beginning teachers have maybe a little bit more like, I'm not really sure, but I know that I'm uncomfortable in this moment. Like, I know that like this doesn't feel good, right? Like we're able to identify that. But I think that just listening to people is incredibly important. Barging in with your own agenda, the school's list of things that need to get done, that maybe doesn't even apply to that teacher, or the district's like initiatives that aren't connected to what that person wants, are definitely relationship killers. and ways that you can just
like right out the gate. If you just have gone like a misstep right in the beginning, it can impact like the rest of the year. So a conservative, safe place to not say much.
I mean, I've done so many bad things. Like
same.
I had this one coaching situation where I was like told that I need to like go hard from the beginning. Like if that person doesn't leave the coaching conversation crying, then they haven't transformed as a coach. And I was like, what? Like, this is like crazy. So there's some bad advice out there. You should listen to what Lindsay and I are saying, because don't listen to that person.
Don't make the mistakes we made.
Don't do it. We've all done them. And Corey and I, who also host this show, we talk about it all the time. We've made so many mistakes, and I just I want to say them over and over and over again because I don't want people to do them.
That's why I wrote a book.
I know. And
all our
bad
mistakes.
Another one coming that may have a coaching inventory that you want, right? So what are some things that you've observed from good coaches? Like, what the best coaches that you've seen? What are some things that they have done really, really well?
I think it's all the things we've kind of talked about, but I think really great coaches just listen and observe, not just teachers at the beginning of the year, but also the leadership, the school office, just like, what is the culture of learning at the school, and just kind of pause and think about that. And then also really go to teachers, especially at the beginning of the year, like, what do you need? Like, I totally understand that down the line we will be working in a coaching cycle or working on goals, but like right now in this like pressing moment at the beginning of the year, is there anything that I can do to just like help you get set up, or is there something you're kind of grappling with? I think it's a very flexible model from really strategic coaches. And I think they also just really read the room. It's okay as a coach to say, that's not really within the coaching role, but so here's what I can do. And maybe let me help you, navigate these other scenarios.
Yeah, I think one of the things that sticks out to me in terms of like a coach being willing to dig in there and get their feet wet. One of the people that I mentored and coached, she wasn't in her first year. She was in grad school. So she had just gotten her master's, but she was fantastic. But she moved from New York to North Carolina. And she was like, okay, my stuff's here. Like the truck's here with all my stuff. And I was like, all right. And I just like I put my tennis shoes on and I went out to the truck and I like schlepped all her stuff with her. And years later, she was like, that meant so much to me that you just like got in the truck, pulled the boxes out. Like, I was like, what do you mean? Well, of course, like, that's what I'm going to do. And I think that early in my career, I would have been like, not my job to like help you with the library or like do those things. But it meant so much to her that I was willing to like get in the back of the truck and pull some boxes and put them on a dolly and take them to her room. And she just like, it's the little things like that then she was like, okay, so what else you got? Like we're like, we were good, I loved it. It was really great. So speaking of your book, you have a resource that we want to share with folks. And I want you to kind of walk through what this is. And this will be in the takeaways for this episode today. So you'll be able to have access to this. Thank you, Lindsay. So tell us about this weekly survey, just like a little something that people can walk away with and they can do.
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to when you said, okay, they've done these things, but like, now what? How do you sort of follow up? And I think this sort of, we just call it a sample weekly teacher survey. You could call it anything you want. But the idea is that for me, what I would do is every Friday, I would send this. I actually turned it into like a Google form, and I would just send it out to all of my teachers. It was super optional. They knew it was optional. And I'd usually send it out like it was the first thing I did Friday morning. And I just said, hey, let me know how things went and try to finish it by Sunday. And then I would review it, Sunday night or Monday morning. And essentially it would just say, like, what's your goal for next week? What might be important to you? So there was a bit of reflection involved in it, but also I think there was a really good question in there. It says, have you seen or read anything interesting? Share it. So a lot of the times, teachers, they're like huge consumers of learning, or they'd gone to a great training that I didn't get to go to. And they'd be like, oh, I saw this great resource. I saw this great thing. And they'd share it with me. And then the question, how can I, your coach, help? That would really get somebody to identify, oh, well, actually, I really could use your help thinking through this upcoming lesson, or keeping me sane throughout the next week, whatever it was. And I think that even though this was optional, what I found was it was a bit of a brain dump for a lot of folks on Friday. And sometimes the most introverted teachers were the ones most likely to do this. And then when I could go through and look, then I would have immediately something to talk with people about or work with folks on the following week. In addition, when I made it into a Google form, then I could look at the data, and where there's that question, scale of 1 to 5, how prepared are you feeling? And you can make it whatever you want. But I could go through with teachers on that own data. Hey, do you want to look back and see how prepared you felt? Like, you have traditionally been a 4, and this week it says 1. What's going on? And I always laugh too, because that question, have you seen or read anything interesting? I always think back, it doesn't have to be instructional. One time a teacher told me about a new Taco Bell that was opening, and we both love Taco Bell.
You're like, score.
Yeah, it was like a weird community building moment that just to get to know people better and know that I'm available if needed, but also like I can be a wallflower if this is that time where you really don't need me.
Yeah. Well, and giving people the choice here, like, do you want to meet with me this week? Yes, no, or maybe, and so I think this is really powerful, great questions that can, of course, be changed according to your school. I think if you have, if this would also be interesting to see, like, on that Friday, if all of the teachers responded 1, you can kind of see patterns across the school or across grade levels. Like, are there groups of people that need support? Like, why are we not feeling prepared? Like, there can be also some data pulled in from that too. So that would be really interesting.
Like, for anonymous, whatever you want to call it, like I share that then with leadership, like, hey, I'm kind of reading the temperature of the teachers, and I really see folks are not feeling prepared, or this was not a great week overall, right? Or it was. And I think that was just like a really quick bit of information I could share without giving anything away about confidentiality.
Yeah, I love that. And then this is just other things that
it's like you could frame it either way. It could be like a reflecting, it could be preparing. I would not say to do both at the same time, or do one on Monday and one on Friday. I think what's important is to just pick one. Like, do you want it to be for preparation? Do you want it to be reflection? Change the questions, make it whatever you want. But one key thing that I saw with coaches was it has to be consistent. People have to know it's coming at the same day, at the same time. And if you forget, it just makes people forget or not feel like it's that important. And like I said, if somebody doesn't respond, it's not a big deal. But being really consistent, I think, was really effective when maybe there was a teacher who didn't always do the survey, but they had a really hard week and they knew there was an outlet to get on touch with me.
And they can say, it's been crazy. I don't feel prepared. I don't want to meet with you.
Totally.
Like all of those things are okay, and it's fine. And we'll give you your space if that's what you need. And then maybe I want to meet with you. Okay, well, I'll check in, and see how you're feeling. And it's with scheduling, if you do make it a Google form, you can send it so you don't forget to send it off. And it goes off at the same time. So that's great. Well,
I mean, it's really simple. It's not like this is like some novel idea, but I think, I've just seen so many teachers over time. Like, we collaborated and made several tools like this, and it just seemed like it consistently was a winner.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing with us this with us. We are so excited to hear about when your new book is coming out. So definitely let us know. We will make sure that you all have a link to your current book that you have, although there is a new version coming. So
someday,
one of the days in one of the years, there's going to be a new book. So look for it.
Yeah.
Whenever.
Yes.
All right, Lindsay, any final thoughts before we head out?
I think we covered it. Listen,
I think we did it.
We're done. Take care of yourself.
Take care of yourself. Take care of each other.
Yeah.
And we're out of here.
Yep.
Have a great week, everyone. Bye.